Shalom, Hebrews and Shebrews. Welcome to the channel. I am Oilfield Disciple, and we're going to be reading out of 1 Samuel chapter 29 and Acts chapter 23. Now, in 1 Samuel chapter 28, yesterday we were setting the plot, setting the scene for the future King David of Israel, who has aligned himself with Achish, and he is about to do battle with Saul. And Saul had resurrected the bones of Samuel. Samuel has passed away, and the prophet Samuel has passed away, and he gets the witch of Endor to resurrect Samuel. And in that, Samuel's like, I've already told you, Saul, your reign is stripped from you. It is going to be given to David, and tomorrow you and your sons shall die. And so pretty much not too good of news. And when we got to Acts, the Apostle Paul, who was once Saul, had just informed the commander of the Roman army that, hey, although I spoke to these people in Hebrew, I'm a Roman citizen, a natural-born Roman citizen. And so the commander's like, oh, man, we in trouble, because they had not went through the legal process to even touch Saul, who is a Roman citizen. So it could be quite costly for the commander of the Roman army. And so, with that, same scene as yesterday. You can watch the windmill go round and round. It's not near as windy today, but it's still windy and a little bit chilly. And let's get to reading. 1 Samuel. Aleph. Aleph is one in Greek, or in Hebrew. 29:1 says, and the Philistines gathered all their armies at Aphek, while Israel encamped by a fountain which is in Israel. And the princes of the Philistines were passing on by hundreds and by thousands, and David and his men were passing on in the rear with Achish. So, in other words, David is aligned with the Philistines. Interesting, huh? Verse 3, and the princes of the Philistines said, who are these Hebrews? And Achish said to the princes of the Philistines, is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me these days or these years? And to this day I have found no evil in him since he came over. So now they're questioning David's loyalty. Again, just like Saul had questioned David's loyalty, and jealousy caused him to turn David against him. Verse 4, but the princes of the Philistines were wroth with him, and the princes of the Philistines said to him, send the man back, and let him return to the place which you have appointed for him, and do not let him go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become our adversary. For with what could he appease his master, if not with the heads of these men? Is this not David, of whom they sang to each other in dances, saying, Saul struck his thousands, and David his 10,000s? The 10,000s that David struck were Philistines, mainly, amongst others. But, they're like, man, this David dude that you've aligned yourself with has killed tens of thousands of us with no remorse. And now you've aligned yourself with him, and you want us to battle side by side with him and trust him? Absolutely not. So Achish called David and said to him, as Yahweh lives, you have been straight, and you're going out and you're coming in with me, and the army is good in my eyes. For to this day I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming, but in the eyes of the princes you're no good. And now return, go in peace, and do no evil in the eyes of the princes of the Philistines. So in essence, basically, Yahweh has saved David from having to fight against his own people. In an awesome way that Yahweh operates. David was going to kill his own people, those of his own blood, his brothers, basically, because of his word, because David had given his word to Achish, and in giving that word to Achish, he was willing to fight against his own people. But Yahweh has made it where David doesn't have to do so. So David gets to just go home and chill out and watch the battle. David said to Achish, "But what have I done? And to this day, what have you found in your servant, as long as I have been with you, that I should not go and fight against the enemies of my master, the king?" So David has placed himself in submittance to Achish. Y'all take this into account. Take note of this, because Yahweh requires us to be in submission to someone, regardless of who they are. And sometimes he asks us to be in submission to a leader who should be underneath us, should be below us, or should be opposite of us. We should be at war with. But Yahweh requires us to submit at different times to different individuals for certain reasons. Whether that be a pastor that you have been called to go to a certain assembly to, that you look at the pastor and you're like, are you kidding me? But Yahweh's asked you to be in submittance to him, to learn something. Maybe it's humility, maybe it's something. And this is what David has done with Achish. He has placed himself in submittance to that authority. And that's something here in this culture, here in America. We turn 15, 16 years old, and we've automatically got it in our heads that I don't have to listen to no one. No one can tell me what to do. Only God can tell me what to do. Only God can judge me, even though you're not submitted to God. And we have this idea that we don't have to submit to no one. So take that to heart. Listen to what I say there. Verse 9, but Achish answered and said to David, I know that you're good in my eyes, as a messenger of Elohim, but the princes of the Philistines have said, let him not go with us to battle. And now rise early in the morning with your master's servants, who have come with you, and as soon as you are up early in the morning and have light, then go. And David and his men rose up early to go in the morning, to return to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went up to Israel. Dun, dun, dun. Tune in tomorrow. Let's get over to Acts. We're in good time here. Acts chapter 23. And let's see what's to become of the Apostle Paul, Saul. Now that the commander knows that he's a Roman citizen. And so yesterday the commander tells Paul that, I had to buy my citizenship. And Paul's like, yeah, well, I'm natural born. And so it's like, So in a funny sense, it kind of mirrors David over here. Paul is bloodline Hebrew, Jew, but he's a citizen of Rome. And so kind of we can look at that today in our own lives. We are citizens. If you're watching me and you're in America, I don't know if I've got anyone outside of the States or not watching. But if you're in America or whatever country you're in, you're a citizen of that country. But you are grafted into the house of Israel if you are a disciple of the Most High. Does that make sense? And so your first duty is to Yahweh. Then your family, and then your country. God, family, country. That's the Marine motto for God. Which I think the Marine motto, I was in the Army, I wasn't a Marine, but I think the Marine motto is for God and country. And so in country involves your family. Verse 23, or chapter 23, verse 1. And Shaul, looking intently at the council, said, Men, brothers, I have lived in all good conscience before Elohim until this day. And the high priest Hananiah commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. And then Shaul said to him, Elohim is going to strike you, whitewashed wall. Oh, that's an insult in the time of Saul here. You whitewashed wall. Your mouths are as open sepulchres. That's an insult, kind of like calling somebody a sorry SOB or an MFer. And today, it's a very derogatory connotation. And so Saul calls him a whitewashed wall. You smack me in the mouth. You're lucky I don't just beat you to the ground. Continuing on, verse 3. And do you sit judging me according to the Torah, or do you command me to be struck contrary to the Torah? And those who stood by said, Do you revile the high priest of Elohim? You dare speak to the high priest of the Most High God like that? Well, and Shaul said, I did not know, brothers, that he was a high priest, for it has been written, You shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people. Now Shaul, perceiving that one part were Sadducees and the other Pharisees, cried out in the council, Men, brothers, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. I am being judged concerning the expectation and the resurrection of the dead. So he's going to appeal and pit the Pharisees and the Sadducees against each other here. It's very interesting how witty Paul is here, because the Sadducees do not believe in the resurrection. They do not believe in life after death. Where the Pharisees believe in an afterlife. They believe in going and being with the Most High forever, just not through Jesus. And so he's fixing to pit these two against each other on that merit alone. And when he had said this, there came a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the crowd was divided. For the Sadducees say there is no resurrection, nor messenger, nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both. Okay, so I guess I could have just read that and you would have found out. Like I said, I don't read ahead. I know this because of studies. I know that the Sadducees don't believe in resurrection. In verse 9, and there was a great uproar, and certain of the scribes of the party of the Pharisees were earnestly contending, saying, We find no evil in this man. And if a spirit or a messenger has spoken to him, let us not fight against Elohim. Now remember, I don't remember which one it was, but he told the Pharisees back before they crucified Jesus, or right after they crucified Jesus. It's right after they crucified Jesus, that if this be of God, there's nothing we can do to stop it. But if it be of men, just like all the rest of these uprisings of different cults and sects, SECTS, not SEX, sects of people, sects of beliefs, they'll die out. But if it's of God, there's nothing we can do to fight against it. And why should we? I don't remember which priest that was. I'd have to go back and look. But you can do that. It's back early on in the first chapters of Acts. Verse 10, and a great dissension having come, the commander, fearing lest Shaul would be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the body of soldiers to go down and seize him from their midst, and to bring him into the barracks. Now the commander has a duty to protect Paul until he's tried in an actual tribunal of the Roman legal system. And so the commander has a duty to protect Paul here. And on the following night, the master stood by him and said, Take courage, Shaul, For as you have witnessed for me in Jerusalem, so you have to bear witness at Rome also. So you're going to stand before kings and priests, and you're going to honor me. And when it became day, some of the Yehudim made a conspiracy and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Saul. That's pretty serious. And those making this conspiracy were more than 40, who having come to the chief priests and elders and said, we have bound ourselves under a great oath not to eat at all until we have killed Saul. All right, stop, make note. I hear today all the time, I'm not taking the vaccine, I'm not wearing a mask, blah, 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 blah. Do you really mean that? Because if they come to you and they tell you, all right, this law has been made that you either take the vaccine and get this little certificate or a mark or whatever the hell it's going to be, or you're not going to be able to go into the store. You're not going to be able to get a job. You're not going to be able to do anything to feed your family. Are you that serious about what you believe in that you're going to stand on that regardless of what it costs you? These men have made an oath. They're not going to eat or drink until Paul has been killed. Well, these guys are fixing to get hungry and thirsty and probably die. And I'm just going to give you a little heads up. They're not going to kill Paul right yet. And they're not going to kill Paul for a good bit, a good long time. And so, do these men break their oath to God? Do they break their oath before God? They're going to have to. All right, so when you make an oath to God, make sure, Deuteronomy, I believe it's in Deuteronomy, if you make an oath, make sure you can stand up to that oath when you make that oath to God. Verse 15. Now, then, you, with the council, inform the commander to have him brought down to you tomorrow, as intending to examine more exactly all about him. And we are ready to kill him before he comes near. And when Saul's sister's son, Apostle Paul's nephew, heard of their ambush, he entered into the barracks and reported to Saul. And Saul, having called one of the captains to him, said, take this young man to the commander, for he has something to report to him. He indeed then took him and led him to the commander and said, the prisoner Saul called me to him and asked me to bring this young man to you, having something to say to you. And the commander, having taking him by the hand, went aside by themselves and asked, what is it that you have to report to me? And he said, the Yehudim have agreed to ask that you bring Saul down to the council tomorrow, as intending to inquire more exactly about him. Therefore do not let them persuade you, for more than 40 of them lie in wait for him, men who have bound themselves to an oath, neither eat nor drink until they have killed Paul. And now they are ready, waiting for the promise from you. It's interesting that this young man is even given place to get the commander's ear to tell him this, only by Yahweh in inspiration. See, this is the supernatural ability of God, the supernatural things that God does, that sometimes we don't even recognize as being supernatural from God. In a normal circumstance, this boy wouldn't even got in there to talk to Paul. They wouldn't even allow that. But God makes a way when there seems to be no way. Remember that. Then the commander, verse 22, then the commander dismissed the young man, having commanded him, inform no one that you reported this to me. And having called near a certain 2 captains, he said, get 200 soldiers ready to go to Caesarea, and 70 horsemen and 200 spearmen after the 3rd hour of the night. All right, so in normal circumstances, the commander would have brought Paul down to the council for more inquiry. It probably would have had 15, maybe 20 soldiers, a small platoon of soldiers accompany him, and these Jews would have overtaken the soldiers and killed Paul. But now the commander's wise to him, so he's like, we're going to send the whole brigade, brother. You ain't getting past us. Verse 24, and provide beasts on which to place Saul and bring him safely to Felix the governor. And having written a letter in this form, Claudius, Lysias, to the most excellent governor Felix, greetings. This man having been seized by the Yehudim, and being about to be killed by them, I rescued. Okay, this citizen of ours was about to be killed by the Jews. Having learned that he was Roman, and desiring to know the reason they accused him, I brought him before their council, and I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their Torah, their law, not ours, theirs. But there was no charge against him deserving death or chains. And when I was informed that there was to be a plot against the man by the Yehudim, I sent him immediately to you, having also commanded his accusers to state before you the charges against him. Be strong. And so the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Saul and brought him by night to Antipatris. And on the next day they left the horsemen to go on with him and return to the barracks. Who having come to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, and they also presented Saul to him. And the governor, having read it, and having asked of what province he was, and being informed that he was from Cilicia, said, I shall hear you when your accusers arrive. And he commanded him to be kept in Herodias' palace. All right, so when your accusers get here, we'll begin the trial. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Tune in tomorrow to see what happens to Saul. See, as we read scripture, if we will look at it from our own perspective sometimes, not putting your place in any one particular character, but just look at the circumstances, you can see the circumstances of our own culture, our own world going on right now, and it'll help you operate accordingly. That way we operate accordingly to what Yahweh would have us do. Plain and simple. So y'all be blessed, be encouraged, and always be frustrated. I am the oil-filled disciple, aka Pastor Matt. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Go check out my other videos and archives, and feel free to comment. Whether you agree or disagree, we'll be courteous about how you do so. I will catch y'all in the next reading.